the executive. The executive, Karyapalika. So here we know that there are three organs of a government: the legislature, then we have the executive and the judiciary. These are the three organs, and together they perform the functions of the government. For example, maintaining the law and order and welfare of the people they look after. And also the Constitution of India ensures that they work in coordination, harmony, together, and they need to maintain a balance among themselves. So what we are going to discuss today is that we need to make a distinction between the parliamentary and presidential executive. Then we have to understand the constitutional position of the President of India, and also the Council of Ministers, that is the composition and functioning of Council of Ministers, and what is the importance of Prime Minister. Also, the importance and functioning of the administrative machinery, that is those people who actually work, who are responsible for executing the task. First of all, what is an executive? In simple terms, executive or execution means doing some work or completing some work. So in any organization, just assume that it's about your school or a college. Now you will have a dean or a principal, right? Now there are some HODs, the head of the departments. Then there are other people like the lecturers and the teachers, etc. And then there are students. In between there are administrative people, store people, and security guards, etc. Now, whenever something is going to happen, dean, he is going to call the HOD. They are going to meet together and they will make a decision. And this decision, one is going to be made as the head of that decision. For example, let us say the New Year celebration, for example. Or let us say examination, the term end examination is there. So he is made responsible. Everyone sits, they decide, and now he takes some in the committee, and now he executes it. So these people are actually executing. There are certain students also that gets involved. So in our system, this PM, Prime Minister, then we have these four as the Council of Ministers, and then others which are involved, these are the IAS, IPS, and other government servants who actually execute it. So there are in every organization, there are some people who are making decisions, who sit and make decision, and then certain people who are actually working on it, who are actually implementing these decisions. Some office holders, they decide the policy, as I just said, the rules, the regulations, and the policies, etc. And some people, some office holders, these rules, regulations, and policies, they are going to execute it. That is, they are going to implement it, actually implement it, right? So the word executive means the body of persons that looked after the implementation of rules and regulation in actual practice. So whenever you make or somebody makes rules and regulation, it is not only making rule and regulation. Until and unless these rule and regulation, for whom they are made? They are made for the students, because they are going to be, giving the exam. So how to transfer this decision to the students who are actually going to give the term and examination? This is done by certain people. So the rule being made by dean and other members are to be executed. So this is the executive who are executing it. So in case of government also, one body, as I just said, one body is making policy decisions and deciding all the rules and regulation. The others are implementing these rules and regulation. the organ of government that primarily looks after the function of implementation and administration is called the executive. Let me tell you, executive is what? This is the organ of the government that primarily looks after the function of implementation and administration. This is called as executive. So when the executive, what are the function of the executive? So executive is government only, that is executive comes from the government only. So executive is a branch of government, and this is, as I said, whatever the government has decided, that is the legislature has decided. Legislature is what? Who make rules. So whatever the legislature has decided, executive is that branch of government that is responsible for the implementation of the laws and policies which are adopted and decided by the legislature. So executive is that body, and it comes from government only. It's a part of government only. And the official designation of this executive, if you say executive, you ask me that give them a name. I can't, because see, some countries the executive name may be presidents, somewhere they may be called as chancellors, some place they may be called as prime ministers and ministers. So for example, United States of America, they have president. The Germany has chancellor, prime minister and council of minister in India. So the executive branch is not just about president, prime minister and minister, but also it also adds up this plus any of these plus the administrative machinery, that is the civil servants, Nagarik Seva, those who work for the people, that is who are recruited, who are appointed. These people are elected and these people are appointed, recruited. So if you add these two, they form the actual executive. While the head of the government and their ministers saddle with the overall responsibility of government policy, these are known as the government, like the prime minister, like the other people in the government who are making policy. These are known as political executive. And those civil servants, that is the government servants, and like the IAS, Indian Administrative Service people, and there are other people also who are the central government employee, and those who are actually responsible for day-to-day administration, and these are called the permanent employee. Please understand, these are the political executive, and these are called the permanent executive. Why they are permanent executive? Because they are recruited for once and then they will retire only after completing certain age. But here all these people, they may be changed by the people in the next election. That is why they are called only political executive. These are permanent executive. So what are the different types of executive? Let us take an example. See, in India we have the president, and it's a rubber stamp, we call them. In Britain we have queen. So the USA, let me take one by one. USA has a presidential system, and executive powers are with the president. Like we have President Donald Trump right now. Canada has a parliamentary democracy. So it has parliamentary democracy with a constitutional and monarchy, where the queen, right now it's Elizabeth II, is the former chief of the state. Queen is the chief of the state, and the prime minister is the head of government. If you go to France, now France, both the president and the prime minister, they both are the head of government. Means in France, president and prime minister both are the head of the government. Like part of this is called both are the part of semi-presidential system. We call it as a semi-ardha adhyakshatmak, semi-presidential system. Actually, the president appoints the prime minister as well as the council of minister, but the president cannot dismiss this prime minister. Why? Because now this prime minister is responsible for the parliament. Coming to Japan. Japan has a parliamentary system. They have an emperor. They have an emperor with the head of state. And the prime minister is the head of the government. This is Japan. Italy. In Italy, it has a parliamentary system with the president only as the formal head of the state. Formal head. You can say formal head of the state, and the prime minister is actually the head of the government. Means he is the actual government. Now Russia has semi-presidential system where the president is the head of state and the prime minister is appointed by the president. In Russia is the head of the government. In Germany, it has a parliamentary system where this president is this only ceremonial head of the state. He is just a rubber stamp on whose name everything will be done. But the chancellor, which is Angela Merkel right now, the chancellor is head of government. So if you see that there are so many different types of executive in different parts of the world. Now, what about the presidential system? The presidential system, as I just said, which here, like in United States, the president is the main head. So in presidential system, the president is the head of the state as well as he is head of state as well as head of the government. In the presidential system, for example, in USA, in Brazil, in various parts of the Latin America, this presidential system is there. So let us revisit again. I'll just come here and then we'll talk about the other parts of the system, that is what different system we have. But let me complete it, then I'll go back. In a parliamentary system, because this is now we are related to this parliamentary system. Sansadi Vyavastha. In the parliamentary system, the prime minister is the head of the state, head of the government, He is the head of the government. For example, in India, we have Narendra Modi. He is the actual power. He is the head of the government. And in most parliamentary system, they have a president or a monarch who is just a nominal head of state. In most presidential system, the president or any monarch, any king, he is just a nominal head, formal head. You can say he is a formal head. He is not the actual head. So here the role of president in this kind of system, the role of president or monarch is just as ceremony. He is just like he is just a garland or a rubber stamp. And prime minister and along with the ministers of the council, that is the council of ministers, the prime minister with the council of ministers, they have the actual power. They have the actual power and effective powers they have. So these all, for example, Germany, Italy, Japan, United Kingdom, and Portugal, this cases. Then we come to the semi-presidential, that is Ardha Adhyakshatmak system. Semi-presidential system. Here both the president and the prime minister, both a president and a prime minister are there. But unlike the parliamentary system where only the president is just like a garland, both of them are having powers. So in the semi-presidential system, both a president and a prime minister, but unlike the parliamentary system, the president may possess significant day-to-day power. President is not just a rubber stamp. He will have significant power in the semi-presidential system. So it is possible that sometimes the president and the prime minister may belong to the same party, sometimes they have different party. So this kind of system you will find in France, Russia and Sri Lanka. Now whatever we have discussed, let me take you and try to revise them. So types of executive, the system which is based on the principle of collective leadership and system is based on individual leadership. That is, only single person is the key leader. Here it is a collective leadership. There will be not single person, but a group of people or some power will be distributed. Here the power lies with single person, like presidential. So presidential system, we have president as the head of the state. For example, in United States of America, he is also the head of the government. The president is usually directly elected by the people. As we see, Donald Trump was elected and Hillary Clinton was against the other candidate and she lost. He is not accountable to the legislature. So a legislature is different. That is the Senate, we call it, or you can call it as a Congress. So in USA, but the president of United States is not accountable for the legislature. All the power is with the president. Please understand. Now coming to the collective leadership, here there can be two types: parliamentary and semi-presidential system. In parliamentary, the head of the government is known as Prime Minister. As we have in our country, Narendra Modi is the head of the government and he is the leader of the majority party in legislature. So in legislature like the Lok Sabha, in Lok Sabha the majority party or the majority people who have won, they elect or they select their neta, their leader, and he is going to be the Prime Minister. If you talk about states, in states, whosoever has more MLAs, that party, the MLAs select or elect or nominate their leader, and that leader is going to be the Chief Minister. He is accountable for the legislature, that is the Prime Minister of India. Narendra Modi is accountable for the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha, and the head of the state may be monarch or a president. In our country it is president, which is Ramnath Kovind right now, and in various countries we have monarch like the king. So in the monarch we call them as constitutional monarchy. In our case, because we have a president, we call it as a parliamentary republic. And both are only ceremonial executive. They just are there to be there, just to lead. But actual power does not resides with them. Coming to one more aspect of collective leadership is semi-presidential system. So here semi means half, like distributed. You can say here the head is Prime Minister, here the head is President, but here Prime Minister and President both are there. So the President means the President is the head of state, Prime Minister is the head of the government, and Prime Minister and his council are responsible for legislature. And President is not just a rubber stamp, he has quite a number of powers. So he cannot be just kept like that, like we have. So this is what we have discussed now. Parliamentary, we have seen in 1919 and 1935, we had some experience. So while the Constitution of India was written, we had some experience that in the parliamentary system or the Sansadiya Vyavastha, the executive can be effectively controlled by the representative of the people. That is, the legislature can control the executive effectively. But the presidential executive puts much emphasis on the president as the chief executive and the source of executive power. We have already seen that in USA, the president is the whole soul. President is having all the power. But there is always the danger of personality cult in presidential executive. People start praising, people start, Vyakti Puja. Personality cult will be there. They'll start Pujana of this president. So there is always a danger of this. In the parliamentary form, now executive will be answerable and controlled by the legislature. As I just said, legislature will control executive and executive will be answerable to the legislature. And legislature are what? What is legislature? Legislature is nothing but the representative of people. People have elected them. So executive is now answerable to the legislature. So when our constitution was written and when the constitution was adopted, this is a parliamentary form of government. This is the parliamentary system of executive. We accepted. So the Constitution of India adopted the parliamentary system of executive for the government, both at the national level as well as the state levels. According to this system, there is a president who is the formal head of the state of India. So president, he is the, please understand this word, formal. He is just a formal head of the state of India. Then comes the prime minister. Now prime minister along with the council of ministers, prime minister, which is now Narendra Modi, and council of ministers, that is the different ministries, there are different ministries being headed by different ministers, which are actually the MPs only. So prime minister along with the council of ministers, they run the government at the national level. When we talk about the state level, what happens? Same thing is there, but here the chief minister and along with the council of ministers, which are by the chief minister, and these are nothing but these are people, MLAs, who are in majority, and they have chosen this CM as their leader. So what is the head? Who is the head? As in the central government, the head is president. In the state level, the head is a governor, and for union territories, it is lieutenant governor. Now the president exercise whatever power is there. President has very limited power. Actually, president has no power. Only some powers when it becomes very important, when there is a hung parliament or some parliamentary thing which comes up. That is because of the political thing. But the president has the powers only which are given by or which are exercised by president, and main power center is council of minister. So council of minister is headed by the prime minister. Prime minister is heading the council of minister, and prime minister exercise or he use the power through this council of minister and the prime minister. That is, this prime minister has little power. This president has little power. All the power is with prime minister and the council of minister. The president is elected for normally 5 years. And the president is elected not by the ordinary citizen, as this council of ministers and prime minister, they all are directly elected by the people of the country. But president is not elected by us. They are elected. The president is elected by whom? They are elected by the MPs, that is member of parliament, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, and the MLAs, the member of legislative assembly of the states. And this is done with a method of proportional representation. We have already discussed about this proportional representation, and also with single transferable vote. So this is how it is done. The prime minister and the council of ministers, they have the support of the majority in Lok Sabha. So if this is the Lok Sabha, there is a majority MP, a party or a coalition of MPs. The leader of this coalition or a single party, for example, in 2019 and 2014, BJP has maximum number of MPs. So we can call that BJP was the majority political party, and they selected actually Prime Minister Narendra Modi as a leader. So this now Prime Minister chosen Council of Ministers from these members only. So the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers, they have support of majority, because this is the majority. That is why they have formed the government in the Lok Sabha, and they are the real executive. Who are the real executive? Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. In most of the cases, the president have to follow the advice of the Council of Ministers. The president has to follow the advice and suggestion by the Council of Ministers. 42nd and 44th amendment was there, and after that it was being said, there is an amendment that the president has to follow, he is badhya, he is forced to follow whatever advices are given by the Council of Ministers. Now, first president was Dr. Rajendra Prasad. The previous one was Pranab Mukherjee ji. Right now we have Ram Nath Kovind Sahab. Ramnath Kovind Sahab as our latest president. Now, what are the discretionary power of president? As I just said, that president in the Sansadiya Vyavastha, parliamentary system, he is just a rubber stamp. They all are rubber stamp. But it's not like that. Constitutionally, the president has a right to be informed. That is, the prime minister has the duty to inform president of what all is going on. Important matters, all the deliberations of Council of Ministers, all has to be informed to the President of India. But as I said, he is Ramnath Kovind Sahab, 14th President of India. At least there are 3 situations where the President exercises the power using his or her own discretion, own political background, own mind. What is this? First, when the President thinks that the advice, say, the legislature formed a bill, now it has to be made as an act, and this went to Ramnath Kovind Sahab or any president. Now, when the president sees that this bill has some flaw, there is some legal lacuna, president, in the best interest of the country, he can send the bill back and he will ask the legislature, that is the parliament, to have a look again, to reconsider this decision. Most of the time, maximum time, president agrees to whatever bill is being sent to make it as an act and he just signs it. But sometimes there may be case. But if the bill is again resent to the president, he is bound to sign it, to accept it, right? First is this one. He may reconsider, he may send it for reconsideration. Now the second one is, the president has a veto power, which is also called as a pocket veto. That is, now the bill has come to the president does not want to sign it. Other than money bill he has to agree in any terms. But anything other than the money bill, when it goes to the president, now he doesn't want to give assent, or he doesn't want to accept it. What he'll do? He will keep this bill for whatever time he needs. That is, he will keep this bill in his pocket. That is called the veto. That is, the president just keep the bill pending with him without any time limit. In the Constitution of India, there is no time limit being given that the president has to sign it or to accept it in this period. So he will just keep it in his pocket, and that is why it is called as a pocket veto. There is third discretionary power, which is with the President of India. The third comes with the political circumstances. What are the political circumstances? Rajnitik situation. Now, what happens? There is a hung parliament. What happens? This is a parliament. Now, one party has 100 MP, other party has 100, this has 150, others have less, Now, in this scenario, what will happen? This party will say, okay, we can make the government. This comes, they say, no, we will make the government. This came, they say to the president, we can make the government. So there is no clear majority. For example, we have 543 seats now. 284 is the magic number. No one is getting 284. They are getting way less, and they are also not making any coalition. What will the president do? President will appoint the prime minister. He will call the prime minister on his discretion. He judge that who is the actual person who can run the government, who can be a prime minister, who can gain the power, who can gain the acceptance of majority of the MPs. So by his mind, his discretionary power, he will call the actual party which he understands and thinks that this is stable and that can form a government. So this is the third discretionary power of the government of the president in the government. We've seen from 1989 to 1998, what happened? Coalition. For example, this 100, 100 and 150, they make a coalition. Now they have 350 seats. They are way ahead of 284. Now they can form a government. But now the thing is that who is going to be the prime minister? Who is going to be the prime minister? Because everyone has, good numbers. So there was no single party from 1989 to 1998. We have seen that there was a coalition. Parties P1, P2, P3, they joined hand together. So there was no clear-cut majority. Here we need president. You may ask a question, why do we need a president then? These are the situations when we need president. Because in a parliamentary system, the Council of Ministers is dependent on the support of the majority in the legislature. So this also means that the Council of Ministers, they may be removed at any time, and new Council of Ministers will have to be put in place. And this situation requires a head of state. We need head of state here. We need head of states. So for a fixed term, who is powerful enough to appoint a prime minister and who may symbolically represent the entire country? That is why we have the president of India. Okay? Because from this time, 1998, I guess, from 1989 to 1998, we don't get a proper majority. 2014, 2019 and 2009, we got the clear majority. Here Congress got, here BJP, clear majority. President has to do nothing. But there are certain times which may come where the parliament is hung. We also have Vice President of India. He is actually he will take the place of President. If anyhow the President dies, or he resigns, or he can only be removed by impeachment. That is Mahabhyog. So if it is removed by impeachment, then the Vice President is going to take the place of President. I am saying Vice President will not become President. He will be a Karyakari person. He will take all the work of President until new President is in the place, right? And the Vice President is also elected for 5 years. He also is elected by a electoral college, by the PR system, this representation system, right? And he is the Sabhapati. He is the Sabhapati of Rajya Sabha. He is the ex officio chairman, Sabhapati of Rajya Sabha. Vice President is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha. Now coming to the discussion, Council of Ministers is the Prime Minister. And these two becomes the most important functionary of the government in our country, in India. Right now we have Narendra Modi as our Prime Minister. The first Prime Minister of India, independent India, was Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. And he is the majority leader in Lok Sabha. So once he loses the support of the majority, the Prime Minister loses the office. And formally what happens after the Aam Chunav, that is the Lok Sabha election, the party or a coalition who has got maximum MPs. Now say this is your Lok Sabha and the majority MP are from say one party P. So they elect or they choose a leader. For example, the BJP has chosen Narendra Modi, and formally a leader who has the support of majority, for example here BJP's Narendra Modi, is appointed by the President of India as a Prime Minister. So President has appointed Narendra Modi as the Prime Minister of India because he has the maximum MPs supporting him of his party. And also they have a coalition called as the NDA, National Democratic Alliance. And the main thing is that the Prime Minister decides who are going to be the minister, because President now appoints PM, and now PM appoints different ministries like the Civil Aviation Ministry, like the Agriculture Ministry, like the Coal, and like the Education Ministry, like all these ministries are there. So he appoints Council of Ministers, and the Prime Minister allocate the ranks also and portfolios of the minister. There are different rank. It depends on the seniority and political importance. The first level you can say is the Cabinet Minister. Cabinet Minister. Then we have the Minister of State, or you can call it as a Deputy Minister. So Chief Minister of the State, they also in the same way, they choose ministers from their own party, or if they have some coalition. The Prime Minister and all the ministers, they have to be this Prime Minister, and all these ministers who are being appointed as a ministerial rank, given a ministerial rank, they need to be the member of either Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. If they are not, in 6 months, they have to become all these minister, cabinet rank, minister of states, all these minister, deputy ministers, all of independent charge, all these ministers have to become the member of Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha in 6 months. Otherwise, they will lose their ministerialship. Previously, what happened, or this was, in people's idea, that, okay, one party is there. Now what, this party is not getting majority. So what this party does, they call the other smaller party and they say, okay, you come to, you support us and we'll make you minister. You come, we'll make you minister. Now, if these ministers are too much or too many, all will be ministers, and there will be a kind of corruption being involved. So there was an amendment. There was an amendment being made, and the amendment was such that the Council of Ministers cannot exceed more than 15% of total members of the House of People, that is the Assembly, or member of the Parliament or the Assembly. If you're talking about states, it cannot exceed 15%. For example, just taking an example, if there are 100 MLAs or 100 MPs, there cannot be more than 15 ministers. It cannot be exceeded. So the parliamentary executive is that executive which is routinely under the control and supervise of the legislature, the parliamentary executive. The ministry is an executive committee of parliament and is collectively governs on behalf of the parliament. So basically the parliament is everything. But the ministry is, all the ministries which have, is an executive committee of the parliament. That you have a parliament. Now this is a ministry, it works for some certain specific field, this work for certain specific field. And they all combine together, they work on the behalf of parliament only. And there is one more thing. When we say that the ministers are together or they act collectively, that means what? That is, if a no confidence motion is passed even for a single minister, because there is a council of ministers, there are so many ministers. So even if no confidence motion is passed for a single minister, the entire council of ministers has to resign. Entire council of ministers has to resign. This also says or indicates that if the minister does not agree with the policy or decision of the cabinet is actually, there are two things, Mantri Mandal and Mantri Parishad. So council of minister, it is big, around 60 to 65 people are there, and in the cabinet around 20 to 25 people are there. So the cabinet is stronger. So if cabinet makes certain decision and other ministers, say one more minister is there which is not in the cabinet, and he is not willing or he is not ready for what the policy the cabinet has made, either he has to accept the decision made by the cabinet or he has to resign. In India, Prime Minister is supreme. he enjoys the most powerful, preeminent place in the government. What happens if the Prime Minister somehow he has untimely demise, he dies or he resigns? That means automatically the Prime Minister has created the Council of Ministers. So if Prime Minister is resigning or he dies, the Council of Ministers also dissolves, right? That is, but the dismissal or resignation of the Prime Minister, all the Council of Ministers is dissolved, is finished. But in this Council of Ministers, if there is one minister who dies or who resigns, only one seat is vacant, and now Prime Minister can give this charge of this ministry to some other candidate or some other MP. So the power which is wielded by the Prime Minister flows from various resources. We say that Prime Minister has immense power. How does he get power? What powers he has? First of all, he has control over the Council of Ministers. He is a leader of Lok Sabha. He has command over the bureaucratic machinery. Then he has access to media and the projection of personality during election, because he is coming from certain party like Manmohan Singh, he was from Congress. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he was from BJP. Now the Narendra Modi, he is from BJP. So they are projecting the personalities during the elections. Then projection as a national leader, because when you are not living alone, you are in a globe, so you need to interact with in various terms with different countries. So there is an international policy, international relationship also is there. So now the Prime Minister is leading this international relationship, as he also does the foreign visits. Since 1989, what we have seen is coalition. What coalition means? Let me tell you again. One party in the parliament is not having enough majority to form a government. So what they do, there are certain smaller party. Now they make a coalition. They combine together and they make a coalition. So now many of the governments could not remain in power in full term in Lok Sabha. They were either removed or they just resigned because the majority was simply not with them. So these developments has resulted in the immense discretionary power or role of the president. How? See, first of all, the power of president is to select the Prime Minister, who is going to be the Prime Minister. Secondly, because the coalition is there, in this period, the consultation between political partners becomes very important. Because now you are not a single party, you are a coalition, so you have to listen. Say BJP is there. Now there is some parties say Shiv Sena, some parties say DMK. Now all these are the supporting parties which supports BJP and they are in coalition. So BJP cannot do everything by themselves. They have to listen to the Shiv Sena, they have to listen to DMKs also. So there is more consultation between the political partners. The third thing is, previously the Prime Minister enjoys a full power, like in 2014, 2019, Narendra Modi is enjoying the full power because he and his party is in full power. But when there is a situation of coalition, there is a restriction on Prime Minister. That is who he is going to choose. He cannot have all the minister from BJP, Council of Ministers from BJP. He has to take the leader from the Shiv Sena and leader from DMK also. Means the ranks and portfolios of decision making of rank and portfolios is also very important. And also, even if he is making certain policies or certain programs, the Prime Minister cannot decide everything. The Prime Minister has to decide and sit with their coalition partners, then only things can be finalized. So this has given a kind of alliance or coalition Rajnitik Vyavastha and Prime Minister need to discuss with everyone, and the supreme power does not always reside with him. If he or she is in majority, it's okay. Otherwise, the consultation is always there. Now, there is certain things that the chief minister, like the prime minister, is again the leader of the majority party in assembly, that is the state assembly. Governor has also discretionary power. That is, the main principle of parliamentary system operate at this state level too. Because now if you have, say, a state and there is a hung assembly, that is, not a single party has clear majority. So now the governor comes, his role becomes important, that which party he is going to call, which chief ministerial candidate he is to call. He need to understand through his the political background that this party and this chief minister is going to get the majority. I should call him. So the governor power is just like the president power in these scenarios. Coming to the bureaucracy, there are two executive. One is the political executive, and then executive are two types: political executive, and then we have the permanent executive. Who are these permanent executive? The executive organ of the government, which includes the prime ministers, the council of ministers, and it's a very large organization because it involves these. What are these? These are bureaucracy. These are administrative machinery. That is, we call them as the administrative machinery because, or we call it as a civil service because there is already military service. Just to differentiate between the military service, we call them as civil service. And who are these civil servants? These are civil servants. These are not leaders. They are not elected by people. They are trained and skilled officers who work as permanent employee for the government. They are called as government employee, and they are actually assisting the ministers. So if you have, say, an education minister or civil aviation minister or, say, defense minister, now they are assisting them, and these are people who are trained and skilled. They are permanent government employees and they are assisting these different ministers. So these, along with this machinery, that is the prime minister, council of ministers, etc., they together make the executive. But the bureaucracy is basically the Naukar Shahid, those who are permanent employees and who work for the government. So it is the responsibility of the minister, because they are reporting to the minister, they are helping the ministers. So it is the responsibility of the minister also to retain retain political power over the administration. Because there is a administration, there is a government employees, there is an administration. So the minister has a responsibility to take care of or control the administration. The bureaucracy is also expected to be political neutral. Say you are being selected by UPSC. You are now a government officer. Now it's your responsibility to be politically neutral. That is, you cannot be a BJP person or you cannot be a Congress person. You cannot be. You need to be political neutral. For example, say Congress government is there. They had certain policy. Now the Congress lost in the general election. Now BJP has come. Now BJP want to change certain policies which are being made by Congress. So now as a civil servant, as an government servant, it is your responsibility. So whatever BJP is now making policies, you need to abide by it. That is, the responsibility of the administrative machinery is to faithfully and efficiently participate in drafting the policy and implementation of the new government. Right? So in Indian bureaucracy, what we have All India services, we have state services, we have employees of the local government and technical and managerial staff running the public sector undertakings, PSUs. The UPSC, as you see here, the UPSC is given the task of conducting the process of recruitment of the civil servants. We call them as IAS and IPS, Indian Administrative Service, Indian Police Service, for the Government of India. And similarly, we have PSCs, Public Service Commission, in the states. This is for central, this is for state. And they also recruit the officers for the state. So members of this UPSC, they are appointed for a fixed term, and their removal and suspension is subject to a thorough inquiry made by a judge of the Supreme Court. Right? I am talking about the PSC, Public Service Commission people, member of the Public Service Commissions, that is these members, they have fixed terms. Now the Constitution has provided a reservation for jobs also, because they are responsible for appointing, recruiting people, the employees or government employees, to help the government to implement or execute their policies and their rules and regulation. So the Constitution has given the reservation. So reservation of jobs is also there for the Dalits and Adivasis, that is for SC and ST, and certain reservation we have always seen for the women and the backward class also, OBCs and women's. So there is a classification of civil services. First is All India Services, which is Indian Administrative Service, Indian Police Service, like this. Then Indian Forest Service, all these are there. Then we have the central services, which are Indian Foreign Service and Indian Revenue Service. In the state, we have sales tax officers like this. So person selected by UPSC for IAS and IPS, they are actually the backbone. They are of very higher level. If you have heard about in your Zilla or your district, the collector, also known as DM, he is the most important officer of the government at the district level. So an IAS and IPS is assigned to a particular state. Now once they are recruited, they are sent to certain state, say some state, and they work under the state government. Please understand, IAS and IPS work under the supervision of the state government. Only the central government, they can take any disciplinary action against them, though they are working under the state. But this disciplinary action can only be taken by the central government, because actually they are central government employee. The administration of the state is looked after by officers appointed through the State Public Service Commission. So we have State Public Service Commission, as I said, that PSC. So the administration of the state is looked by these officers, because these are the officers elected, or you can say appointed for the state. Now it is common experience what happens, that the bureaucracy, just imagine that you are an ordinary citizen. Can you meet a DM? I don't think so. It's very difficult to meet DM, because it is common experience that the people, in the thought of people, that the bureaucracy is very insensitive to the demands and expectation of the ordinary citizen. You cannot meet them, you cannot talk to them, you cannot put their problem in front of them. You need to be a powerful person to meet them. And there is one more thing, that you are an IAS, IPS. So the chief minister of the state or some good minister of the state, they want to pressurize for certain things this IAS, IPS. We call it as political interference. And this turns the bureaucracy as an instrument in the hands of politicians. So now the politicians are actually playing with this IAS and IPS or the PSC members. And also, there is no provision for protecting the civil servants from political interference. If there is say a DM, and some political person, he is say pressurizing, so there is nothing to stop this political interference. But enough provisions are not there to ensure what this IAS, IPS or the Zilla Adhikari or the state level officers, are they doing? Are they accountable? Are they actually doing what they are being recruited? But we have RTI 2005 Act, and this Right to Information Act can make the bureaucracy more responsive, that the bureaucracy or the government servants, they do all the work what for that they are being assigned, and they become responsive and accountable. So what we have seen is, the executive enjoys great powers compared to the other organs of the government, and the executive must be put firmly under regular supervision and control. Since we have periodic elections, constitutional limits over the exercise of power and democratic politics have ensured that the executive organ cannot become unresponsive. So executive is a very important organ of our democracy, and the smooth working of executive actually make the country running and going. So this is all about this chapter. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.